Welcome, everybody, and welcome back to the Health Bar. As we already know, this is season 2, so it's been really good to be able to chat to new people, as well as some of the old people we've had on as well. So, if you're new to the podcast here, my name is Love Mitt. People call me Mitty normally, and yeah, we kind of wanted to do this podcast, which is all about mental health within gaming, because gaming has actually really helped me with my mental health. But also, as well, I know from a lot of other people that mental health and gaming, well, gaming is the cause of their mental health. So I really wanted to kind of talk about it and bring it to the forefront of people's conversations, because we seem like we're all in this together. And I really kind of hope this podcast helps people. So that's why we're doing it. I always start off the podcast with my own mental health for the current week, and quite a positive one for me at the moment, which is quite nice. We have the little one's birthday, which is happening in a couple of weeks' time. Can't believe he's actually going to be turning 2, which is mad. So lots of kind of running around and doing things like that for him and getting stuff ready. The missus is back to work full time again after having a month off in January and over Christmas, which was lovely. But then obviously now it's full time daddy daycare duties for me again, which is amazing, but also tiring and stressful. But for my mental health, it's been really good at the moment, which is great. Um, okay, so for my guest today, honestly, I'm super stoked to have them on because for people that know me and people that don't know me, I play Escape from Tarkov, which is it's like a looter shooter game, and I met this person just randomly through my stream, and they came and helped me out, and they were the first person that ever helped me out on the game, and we've kind of chatted since, and like haven't played much because I've been on and off other games, and they've been here, there, and everywhere as well. So but yes, so I'd like you to obviously welcome you to the podcast. So hi, welcome. Who are you, and yeah, what do you do as in streaming and gaming?
So I'm Svent or Svent0341 on Twitch. Um, I'm a United States military veteran, and I just was wanting to come on here to talk about mental health and stuff. I started out gaming at a young age, I think with the Atari 2600, and have I don't really remember that console so much in the household. So but I remember it being there, and I just don't remember playing it. After that, it was just kind of with the original Nintendo Entertainment System and playing Mario and how groundbreaking that was, and thinking, man, we've really reached the pinnacle of video games. But yeah, and then through there, uh, it was just went back and forth between Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and then the Sega. Did Sega Genesis, went over to the Nintendo 64, and then pretty much from once PlayStation came out, I was kind of a PlayStation guy all the way up until um, the last few years. And now with the addition of Xbox Game Pass, it's just
Yeah.
kind of too good of a deal to pass up. But generally, now, um, in my late 30s, early 40s, I've been fortunate enough to, if I want, I have all the consoles in my household, and um, 2 different gaming PCs and a laptop. So
Yeah.
it's just kind of became who I am.
Nice. Nice. Love it. Yeah, I mean, I was similar, like with consoles. I never really got into PC gaming that much until I was a little bit older. But yeah, I had a ZX Spectrum, and then I had a Mega Drive, was the first one I had after the Spectrum, and then went up through the PlayStations, and but yeah, absolutely just yeah, as you said, it was groundbreaking. I always remember like Mario and Sonic and just thinking, this is incredible that we can actually sit here in front of our round TVs playing these games. Like, just yeah, it blew my mind. It was mad. It was
Yeah,
yeah,
before then it was always going to, at least here in the United States, we would have, they'd have one or two arcade machines in our pizza joints. So if you went
yeah,
to Pizza Hut or whatever the pizza place was called back then, you might have a Pac-Man cabinet or a Galaga cabinet, and so
yeah,
it was always just that was the treat. If you went, dad or mom would give you a couple of quarters while the pizza was cooking, and you could go play that. But then you're able to move away from just arcade cabinets into something that you could play into your home, and it was.
yeah.
I remember thinking like it's never going to get better than this. This is the pinnacle of entertainment, and then
hmm
with like PlayStation One, I remember playing Road Rash, and
Oh, what a
they
game!
the the
Amazing.
cutscenes were live action cutscenes. I was like, holy
Yeah.
cow, this is real life.
Yep.
So
Yep. Yeah, massively. Um, yeah, cool. I mean, yeah, gaming's been sounds like gaming's been there and still is there, which is nice. But obviously we're here to talk about mental health as well as gaming. So mental health wise, obviously you spoke to myself and you wanted to come on to the podcast, which is amazing. And I always respect anyone that kind of wants to come on and talk about it and talk about either their story or someone else's, or and yeah, so yeah, what was the reason kind of why you wanted to come on and kind of tell your story?
well, you know, finding out that you did the when you did the first season and saying that you were doing a mental health podcast with gaming, I've been asking him, about coming on since then because I'm
Yeah.
a United States Marine Corps veteran here. I served from 2002 to 2006, and I was in the infantry. I was in Iraq, and the statistic that everybody knows for the United States is that 22 military veterans commit suicide every single day.
Yeah.
Um, and after I'd gotten out, now I work in law enforcement, and I now manage our department's peer support team, which is the sit we when you become a peer support counselor within the department, you hold the same confidentiality protections as a therapist would. Now, I'm
Right.
not a licensed therapist or
Yeah.
anything, but I'm a peer that they can come and talk to in confidence. And I've always felt that um, mental health in law enforcement and the military is so stigmatized
Yeah.
that nobody wants to talk about it. And finally, now I think my generation of military veteran, at least in the United States, is finally getting comfortable to start talking about our mental health and start reaching out to people and getting help that we need through different avenues, because most of us, myself included, that have been out for the past almost 20 years since I was discharged,
Yeah.
I've lost more friends to suicide than I have in combat. And
That's
it's
that's
a
that's
it's
that's
a
awful. I mean, as you say, like with the statistics they are, like it's just for me it's heartbreaking because like suicide obviously within especially within men anyway is horrendous, and it's such big figures, and that's here in the UK as well. From the military side, I actually don't know too much about the military side here in the UK, um but it still is very high. But it's heartbreaking for someone to kind of serve their country and kind of put themselves out there like with the riskiest job, and same with law enforcement as well. To put yourself out there and your family as well, um to then come back and then feel that you have no support is just horrendous. And yeah, I just and as you say, there is more that seems to be happening now when people are a little bit more, to talk about it, which is amazing. But it just needs to be done more. It needs
yeah,
to be, and it's really hard because I don't know how that is going to happen or how to do that myself. But yeah, I just hope there's ways that it is starting to get out there a little bit more.
I think the just to doing what you're doing, raising awareness, is really the biggest thing. I think uh, for us, the military veterans, and we know the problems and we know the issues, and we're the key holders to be able to fix
Yeah,
our issues. It's just trying to destigmatize actually making that leap and taking the steps that we know that we need to take.
yeah,
And a lot of that's through, trying to find a sense of community again, because when we get out of the military, during our time in, whether that's 4 years or 20 years, you're part of a tight knit family of people that you're with every single day. And in the United States, it's once your end of service date comes up, they just kind of wash their hands of you, and now you're out on your own. You're lost. You don't have that sense of community anymore, and it's I think one of the biggest things that I've been able to do is just find a sense of community through gaming, through what I do at my current job,
yeah.
and through just my other military veterans by joining different military groups, whether it's a Discord group or it's a Facebook group or
Yeah.
whatever. So
It's really interesting. You brought that up as in kind of a community, and it's quite interesting because there's a lot of people that still don't understand the online kind of communities. Like, and my family is very like that. My mum and dad, they kind of still don't understand it. My sister doesn't really understand it. She they kind of obviously know it's there, but they don't understand how much it's helped or how much um because most, I would say, like nearly all of my friends now are online. I have a group of people that I used to, that are still friends from back, I'm talking when I was in my in my teens, that we used to go out, and then we used to go out in the early 20s, used to be drinking and going out partying and things like that. And they are still my friends, don't get me wrong, but because I live totally opposite side of the country to them, I don't see them. So my closest friends now are the people, that I speak to online and Discord channels and gaming, and they are such an amazing support system for me, and I know that I am for them as well. Um, and I think it's really important. Again, I still think that's quite like people think down on it still, that, oh my god, you chat to people online, or it's
yeah,
still not open, which is crazy because that's the way the world is going to be going, and it is going quite hard. But there is so many good things out there that people still think are bad because they've of bad, hearing bad things in the news of people see or chatting to people online and getting in trouble or whatever. Where there's hundreds of thousands of people out there that it's helped.
yeah. I remember when I was younger, Ultima Online was my first online game that I played on what I think my 386 or 486 PC
Yeah,
and dial up modem. But I remember back then in my life, I can't remember how old I was. I was in my later teens, in high school. But at that time, my dad and my stepmom were getting a divorce. Um, my dad and my biological mom were already split up. There was a lot of issues going on with my biological mom at the time. She was real bad into alcohol and drugs, and she was in the process of getting sober right around this time frame,
yeah,
but struggling with it. And I remember being able to go onto Ultima Online, playing that first MMORPG and immersing yourself into a different world. And that was my first experience of having genuine, legitimate friends just from an online community that I'd never met in real life, but
yeah,
feeling that personal connection to them and being able to escape and and be able to talk to them every day.
yeah.
So I mean, it's been an escape, from a young age.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. And it's kind of really strange because I was talking about this the other day with some of the other people that I chat to online, and there's a guy that the first person I kind of ever really spoke to him was like an online friend, because I used to play Call of Duty online all the time, but I had a mic, but I never used it. So I'd always listen, but I never used it. It was like, I'm not chatting to anyone. There's no point. And then I started playing Fortnite, and On Fortnite, I'd never really, and then I was like, one day I just thought, oh, I'll just plug it in and, I'll see if there's anyone, and I won't chat all the time, but I can turn it on and off. And yeah, I chatted to this one person, helped them survive, and we got the win. And we're like, oh, and then we play again. And it's all of a sudden I've made this friend after one game, and we
Yeah.
carried on. And literally this Sunday just gone, I was playing Fortnite with them, and that's like, I don't know, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, 8 years, whatever it was. Like, and it's just mad. Like, and some of the people now in our Discord, like, so we joined. So the people that don't know, we made this Discord community called It's Only Pixels, because that's what we want people to remember about gaming. That it is only pixels, so try not to take it too serious. And one of the founding members, Darth, which is like, it's so weird going to be saying this, is that I'm going to his wedding, which
Awesome.
is amazing, and I'd still never met them, and I'm actually going to meet them in a few months' time, because we're going to be going to TwitchCon in Paris. So I'm going to meet him for the first time and some of the others for the first time, which is awesome. But again, that shows you how much of a community and how much everyone means to each other.
Yeah. That's I started with, like I said, with the Ultima Online, and I was exclusively played MMOs through, my early 20s. That's what I did when I wasn't deployed, um when I wasn't deployed in the military.
Yeah,
And I remember back then we could go to uh LAN, I don't know what you could call them. It was like a cafe. You could sit
yeah,
down, they had, 20 or 30 PCs set up, and you'd pay by the hour.
yeah.
And that was the first time I'd ever met an online friend, was at one of these places. It just so happened that I was running a guild in Dark Age of Camelot at the time, and they had joined the guild. And through small talk, we found we lived 10 minutes away from each other.
Oh,
We were, became good friends online before we found this out. And turns out he worked at this LAN cafe that was just right down the road. And so we would start going together. And then it ended up just being, um, most of our friends we would just recruit from that LAN cafe, and that's what we kind of built our guild around at the time. But it was just that one little connection. We'd been playing together for a couple of months, and next thing you know, find out he's just down the road. And
that's
so that was
amazing.
the relationships you end up building online are genuine. And like you said, I think a lot of people still don't quite
Yeah,
understand that, but it's, they're important,
yeah,
vastly important. And
yeah,
it's through things like Discord and just being able to have the different Discord servers. There's several military Discords. There's the Marine Corps has one for the United States branches. Each branch has their own Discord with tons of people, and that's my favorite place to go now,
yeah,
when I'm looking for that connection that I had so many years ago. I can
yeah,
hop into the Marine Corps Discord and be like, hey, who wants to do a couple rounds of multiplayer or Tarkov, or
yeah,
whatever people are playing at this time. And then all of a sudden it's like I knew them, my whole life,
yeah,
because we have those shared experiences from our service. So
yeah. No, that must be, and going back to that, I think that must be so difficult, as you said, like being part of this kind of close knit family. While you're away, living in each other's pockets, like the whole thing, going through all these experiences together, to then come away, back to your family. Obviously, so you've got your real family, and children and partners and etc. But then they don't understand anything that you've gone through, apart from the people that you served with. So these places, are brilliant. They're so good. And but again, I think people need to understand that they're there. Like, it's that thing, isn't it, of always telling people that they're not alone. They're
yeah,
not going through, the bad times. They're not going through that bad. They're not the first person ever to go through that bad time. People have gone through it, and they are through the other side. And there are always people to talk to. And I'm so glad that these Discord servers, and also, as you say, Facebook groups and whatever, I'm so glad that they are up and running. How did you actually? So how did you find them groups? Are they kind of? Did you have to search for them, or did the military actually help? Not, yeah, help you after you kind of leave and say, oh look, these groups are there, or you know what's yeah? How did you find them?
I found them on my own.
Right.
Really, it started with MySpace and then
Okay.
Facebook.
Yeah.
After I got out, when I got out in 2006, I was lost for a few years,
Yeah.
struggling. I was able to get a decent job working security, and so I had an income. But the military and the Marine Corps doesn't really do anything to help us transition to civilian life. They didn't teach me anything about financial responsibility
Yeah.
or
Okay.
trying to get on my feet. I came out of the Marine Corps probably with 6 or 7 things in collections. I didn't know how important it was to be responsible with your credit and your money. I was
Yeah.
broke. I was able to get a good job that was paying the bills, but generally I would spend all that money uh, drinking and sitting in my room and playing video games. But during that time, I wasn't really playing with anybody
Yeah.
aside from my little brother who's been my best friend ever since since high school. But
Yeah.
it wasn't until MySpace or yep, MySpace when I was able to search for my friends' names that I served with and
Yeah.
find that they had a Facebook profile. And so there was a gap of maybe 3 or 4 years
Wow.
um, where I kind of felt, alone, and
Yeah.
then was able to kind of rekindle some lost relationships with my friends, and then more so with Facebook, and then now I found Reddit, and which I think is kind of a cesspool depending on where you go, but
Yeah. I
like
agree. Yeah.
the Marine Corps had its own subreddit, and from there I found the Marine Corps Discord, and so it's been great. And to throw it out there for anybody that from the UK that's saying it, then the Marine Corps Discord, it's got people from all branches and all countries. You don't have to be a United States Marine to join it. Um, and if you're looking for something specifically, whether it's the British Royal Marines or something like that, I'm sure that that's out there too. But you could
Yeah.
always uh, join the Marine Corps Discord and rekindle with some people that you might have served with. I know I served with some Royal Marines in my time over there, and
Yeah.
it's just a place to do it. So yeah, I had to find it and kind of seek it out on my own.
Yeah. That's really, I mean, it's good that you did that, but then also as well, that's quite difficult for people that are in such a dark place that they don't want to do that. So it's kind of frustrating, isn't it? It's you kind of wish that something like that was there from day dot, like, but then I suppose more people now that are hopefully serving that are coming out in this year and next year and so on and so forth. I'm hoping that's a little bit more now is a little bit more accessible and they're trying to help. I would hope, but I mean, yeah, I truly don't know, um, but yeah, also as well, if that and as as you said, like if anyone is interested, there will be a link down in the comments, um, here for that Discord and for anything else we kind of talk about as well, through this podcast. So, yeah, always feel free to even message me, and I can give out other Discords and things like that if anyone needs. And again, always at the bottom of the screen here, they are UK based, and I know the states have the exact same different ones. So yeah, all helplines, and yeah, I really kind of want to push it out there and make sure that people, you really aren't alone. And I know people go through the darkest of times, and I've not been in the military myself, so I can't kind of fathom kind of what you guys have gone through and are going through. But there are always people to talk to, 100%. And this shows you kind of, that there are people to talk to, and yeah, and kind of get through it and get through the bad times. And you're always going to have the memories and things like that, but you will be able to push through, I'm sure. So, um,
For the
yeah, with
United States, I was gonna say for the United States, it's just 988, and that will put you through to somebody
Perfect.
to talk to. And if you're a military veteran, you can dial 988 and then press one, and that's veteran specific.
Perfect. There you go.
So
Um, yeah, perfect. With so going kind of back to kind of gaming. I know you mentioned earlier when you were kind of first came out and you started gaming, you weren't really gaming with anyone, and it was that kind of escapism. Do you think that kind of helped you then, or hindered you in kind of your own mental health? Um, and then obviously now, what do you think gaming does now for your mental health?
I think then it probably was more of a detriment because I was drinking really heavily back then,
Yeah,
um, and I was experiencing a lot of PTSD stuff that I didn't realize that that's what it was then, but was dealing with a lot of survivor's guilt.
yeah,
And instead of gaming for a sense of community, it was just me sitting around my apartment, kind of gaming alone, just not really doing anything productive with my life and not really managing my time. And I was doing it as a way to escape, but it wasn't beneficial to me and
yeah,
to my mental health. It would just I would sit there for 8 hours playing whatever game I was playing at the time, and then knowing in the back of my mind that I needed to be doing something else and trying to be productive and establish myself as a young adult and accomplish the goals that I had always wanted to do for myself when I got out.
yeah,
And so yeah, it kind of felt good in the moment, but then I would beat myself up about it afterwards.
yeah.
And and luckily now, I have a great career. I have a wife and 4 kids, and a wife who supports my gaming, and it's turned into to complete opposite. I one having 4 kids kind of regulates how much I can actually sit down in front of my consoles or my computer to play
Yeah,
something. Um, but I could very easily be that kind of guy that just I get home from work and shut my door in my office and completely ignore my responsibilities. But I've been able to. Um, I still drink a little bit, but not to the
yeah,
extreme. I've learned how to regulate myself and regulate my consumption and my vices,
yeah.
with gaming included. And so it doesn't. It's kind of like I don't want to relapse back to where I was 20 years ago.
Yeah, of
So
course. Yeah, 100%. And it's actually really interesting you saying that you kind of, were beating yourself up a little bit about it, because I still do that now with myself actually. And if I have if I need to take a mental health day and I need to like go right, I need to sit down and do nothing because I'm getting overwhelmed, and getting kind of my anxiety is kicking in, or depression, and whatever it is, and I feel like I just need to just shut myself off and just watch TV or do nothing. But the worst thing about that is that I beat myself up about it, because I'm like, I should be doing the housework. I should be doing editing for someone else. I should be doing this. And oh my God, if I don't now, I'm a day behind. And I proper beat myself, and I still do it to this day. And that's really hard to get over that, and especially when you are in, again, not a good place to start off with. That is so hard to get yourself out of. And um yeah, and it's awesome that you kind of, you have this is this is the nice side of this whole thing, is that you've really kind of got yourself onto, into such an amazing path at the moment, like with your family, and how you are now taking the gaming into kind of, a positive spin. And yeah, I love
yeah,
to hear stories like that with yourself, and it's great.
and everybody needs a day to sit on the couch and do nothing or
Yeah,
spend it playing video games or whatever that is to just take a break. It's when you start doing it day in and day out and day in and you're like, oh,
yes,
2 days isn't gonna hurt. All right, well, 3 days isn't gonna hurt. And then
yeah,
it turns into weeks and months and almost probably 3 years for me when I had first gotten out of just it was a cycle. I would go to work. I was working nights at the time at the security for a casino, and I would get off at 6 in the morning. I would go home, I would crack a beer, and in my defense, that was like my 6 in the evening, but it was still 6 in the morning, and
Yeah.
I would start drinking. I would sit down, and I wouldn't do anything until I wouldn't go to sleep until about noon, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and wake back up at 5 or 6 in the evening to go to work. And so
Wow.
that's just it was just a revolving cycle day in and day out.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go out to get groceries or go outside and touch grass. It was just Chinese food delivery or pizza delivery. And, the only thing that I would leave for would be to go to work, and I'd stop by a gas station and grab beer on my way home. And
Yeah.
I met my wife at the tail end of that, and we had actually split for a little while because of my drinking. Um, and we ended up getting back together, but that was one of the things. She's like, you can't do this anymore,
Yeah.
if you want us to be together. And so kind of pulled me out of it.
It's not like it's really hard because when you are kind of alone, like it is very hard. And, I totally understand that. I mean, again, I am very lucky. My other half, she was with me and she still is with me now when I went through kind of my breakdown, and, you know, helped me out so much, like so much. And I think that people kind of, and again, this is why I kind of, if you don't have anyone physically there, this is why these groups are so good, and the phone numbers are good of just to speak to someone, because your own mind and your own head can just go round and round and round in circles, and you think you're doing the right thing even though you know you're doing the wrong thing. And these people can help, and that
Yeah.
is, we mentioned it: Facebook, Discord, telephone numbers, support groups, therapists, doctors. Like, I know obviously here in the UK it's totally different to in America. I don't know, how you would have to pay for all that kind of stuff with therapy. Like, but if you can kind of, like, here in the UK, you can go through to the NHS and it's free, but it can take like months for you to actually get onto any therapist. But um, you know, and also medication. I'm still on medication now. I'm still on medication for my depression, and I still have beta blockers with me if I ever need them. And I haven't, touched wood, I haven't needed them in the last like 2 years. For panic attacks and things like that. But that's my journey. That's not everyone else's, and medication can work. It can't work for you. And then mindfulness and gaming and, the gym. Like, I know some people that, like, the gym is like the best thing in the world for their mental health. And, so there's loads of things that you can do. Um, but talk to people to find that advice for you.
Yeah. That's funny enough. I talking about panic attacks. I had my first panic attack uh just recently. It was like
Oh, wow.
about a year ago.
Yeah.
Um I don't know where it's down. I was sitting at the airport coming home from a training, and a training for work. I was down in San Diego, and I was coming home, and just something. I felt like I was going to die almost, freaking out. And I talked to somebody about it, and they gave me some medication for it. And
Yeah.
but luckily, it. I haven't experienced that again. But I remember up until that point, I people would say, "Oh, I got anxiety," and there would be part of me is just because I had never experienced it. It's like, well, I'm diagnosed with PTSD from the military. I'm diagnosed with clinical depression from the military, but I was like, can you really be that anxious over sitting at the airport? Well, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely you can, and
Yeah.
it's a very real thing.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and luckily they're sitting in my cabinet, and if I need them, they're there. But
Yeah.
um, it's yeah, talking to somebody, and for myself in the military and law enforcement, it's you gotta we gotta try to break this stigma of talking to somebody. And a lot of us, myself included, for a long time, it's like, well, I don't want to go talk to a therapist because how could they possibly know what I've been through
Yeah.
and how to make me better, because they weren't over in Iraq. Uh they haven't lost the friends to suicide because of what happened to Iraq and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
and luckily I have friends that I can talk to that I have experienced that, but they go to school for a long time for it.
Yeah.
And just because they haven't shared those experiences doesn't mean they can't talk you through and help you work through whatever feelings and stuff that you're having. So
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Also as well, do you guys kind of obviously talk to each other, as in kind of military people? Do you talk to each other about um PTSD and mental health, or is that again still quite a stigma?
I think it's getting better with the generation of veteran that I'm in. Like I mentioned earlier, losing now that we've been out for 20 years, most of us have lost more friends to suicide than we have in combat. And
Yeah.
so now, we the my group of friends personally, we kind of make it a point to talk about it and kind of force the issue sometimes.
Yeah.
There's anniversary dates of deployments or maybe anniversary dates of when somebody had passed. We always reach out to each other and be like, just, hey, how are you doing? It's a tough time of the year, and just talk through that or be like, hey, send memes back and forth. Hey, do you remember
Yeah.
when this happened or that happened? And turn it through, trying to use humor as well to get through it. We joke about some pretty off color things sometimes
Yeah.
that a lot of people wouldn't understand, but it's just to try to crack that smile
Yeah.
and know that, if we're just doing it through the phone, that they're on the other end of that phone, just smiling at something ridiculous that you just sent or, so yeah, we do. And I think it's getting better with my generation, but it's still not where it should be. I
Yeah.
mean, I think, uh, the society as a whole, it's still not where it should be.
No, definitely not. And that's worldwide. That's here as well. That is, um, yeah. I mean, even kind of talking about it, kind of, getting people to even come on to the podcast to talk about it is has always been quite a struggle as well for me to try and get people to, they want to, but then it's kind of they're opening themselves up for, something that they, I don't know, that they don't want to admit that they're having issues, or they know people that are having issues, and what people are going to think of them, which is so hard because, I was there and I still, yeah, still kind of am there. Sometimes when, you think, what are people thinking of you, but it's that thing, I think. Yeah, you just need to do it. I've still got people and friends that I know, they don't know I've got a podcast, even though I've put it out there. They would still never listen to it because they'd be like, "Oh, why are you talking about like mental health? That's a bit weird." You know that they're going to be saying that, but it's just because they've never. It's like yourself, as you said, you know, with the panic attack, that you'd never had one. And I was totally the same when I first heard people saying they're having panic attacks and things. I was so like, you really, like, is it really
Yeah.
that bad? And then I remember having one, and I was driving. It was the first time, and I even told my doctor about it because I didn't even know what it was. And I was like, I felt
Hmm.
like my heart was going to rip out my chest. I was dripping in sweat. I had an instant headache that literally felt like my temple was just going to like pop. And it was so weird. And she was like, "You had a panic attack," and I was like, "I didn't have a panic." And she was like, "Yeah." And then all of a sudden, you're like, "Oh my god!" Like, and it is in these really random, silly things. Like, I could be talking to someone because I used to work in retail, and I could be talking to someone face to face, and all of a sudden, I could feel one coming on, and I'm like, "But I'm just talking to someone," or someone's walked in the shop, or what. Anything can trigger it, and it's so bizarre. And so it is. It really is getting the knowledge out there to people that these things are real. It does happen, and it can be the slightest things that trigger something. And also as well, everyone is so different.
Yeah. And it's I mean, not just from my experience as a veteran, but with just men in general. I'm almost 40 years old, and I'm kind of in between the generations. And I think the younger kids now are getting better at it than
Yeah,
we are, at my age, because I'm in kind of in between the generations of nope, you're a hard man, and this is don't talk about your feelings. You don't cry in front of it,
Yeah. Yep.
and all that. But also kind of transitioning down to the other side of it, where the millennials and what the ones born in the '90s and early 2000s, I think they're doing way better at it than we are. I think,
Yeah.
but it's I remember I had found out that I had a friend pass, not by suicide. He'd gotten in a motorcycle accident, and I
Wow.
hadn't talked to him since I got out of the military. This was maybe 6 or 7 years ago, and come to find out, he lived less than 10 minutes away from me, and I hadn't talked to him since I got out of the military. And then I found out that he was in an accident, and I beat myself up about it because it's like he lived 10 minutes away and I never knew that, and I should have been reaching out and talking to him and all this. And I remember I found out, I think, at work, and I came home and I go in straight into the bedroom and I get in the shower and I kind of lose myself for a little bit. But my wife was asking what I was doing, and I'm like, just, I just want to take a shower. But then I felt like I had to come back out for my wife and my kids. Like, it's just a normal day at work, no big deal. Working in law enforcement, I used the excuse of probably saying, "Oh, I was dealing with some homeless people. I just got a bunch of dirt and grime on me, and so I just needed a quick shower,"
Yeah.
and just pretend like nothing ever happened, which isn't the way you should do it. There's nothing wrong with walking through that door and saying, "Hey, this is what I experienced. I do need some time to myself,
Yeah.
but I've got some really bad news, and I just need to decompress for a little bit," instead of
Yeah.
just putting on that mask to
Agreed.
to,
I
to
think
show that. So.
communication is massive, and it is very very hard. Like when you are going through something, it is so hard. But communication is such a big thing because you know I know people have lost loved ones through kind of not communicating, and they just think they're being like a bad husband or a bad wife or a bad partner or a bad whatever, like father, mother. But, people, if they're not communicating, um people could just go, well, look, I can't deal with this because I don't know what you're going through and you're not telling me. And, so yeah, to be able to communicate is such a big thing. But then again, we both know because we've both gone through it. When you are going through such a bad time, it is so hard to kind of break that kind of silence and actually communicate with someone. Um, so again, this is why we always mention all the support helplines, all of the, discords, everything. It's people are out there to help. And yeah, it is not a bad thing to say, I need a shoulder to cry on. But also as well, you need 5 minutes alone by yourself. It's whatever you need.
Bring it back full circle a bit, back kind of back to gaming. That's um, up until this year, for the past like 7 or 8 years, I had stayed on night shift, and a large reason for that is um, say if I had to work Wednesday night, on Tuesday night I would always stay up all night long, and so I could get some sleep Wednesday during the day before I went to work, and I would use that time, and that was like my me time. I'd be able to put the kids to bed, the wife would go to sleep, and I could sit out in my office. Well, at the time, I'd sit in the living room, and I'd be able to just sit and play video games with old Marine buddies, or whoever was free on Discords, and be able to kind of use that as my decompression time. And I could hop on Discord or somebody, and just while we're playing whatever game at the time, just chat about life and stuff.
Yeah.
And just recently this year, I it was up for promotion, but that promotion was a permanent spot on day shift. And I had talked to my wife. I was like, if I take this job, it's important that I advance my career, but it's also important that I kind of maintain that. And so now on Saturday nights, um, I'll still stay up late. She either goes into work late Sunday,
Yeah.
or if she has to work early, then my daughter will wake up with our younger kids for a few hours so I can sleep in. But I was like, that time is important to me, being able to sit down and play video games with my friends.
Yeah.
Um, to go through because I don't usually sit in front of the TV. I don't watch a lot of shows or movies, and if I do, it's usually just replaying the same shows over and over again just because
Yeah,
I know them and I
yeah,
could just kind of put them on in the background while I'm doing other stuff. So
yeah, definitely, yeah,
I told her, I was like, it's we'll take this new spot. It'll be more money for us. And she's been bugging me about going to day shift for a long time. I was like, all right, this could be it. I'll be on day shift now, but I need that night to be able to play games with my friends.
yeah. And I
So
think that's the thing, isn't it? Again, coming back to that communication, and I'm exactly the same with my missus as well. It's like, you know, I still wanted to stream, and I still wanted to kind of have my time of streaming and talking to people. And so then we kind of sat down together and we worked out a schedule where I could stream when she's doing something else, and then this is happening and that's happening. So all of a sudden you're working together, and yeah, and it works, and this is the thing. And I get my time to kind of, as you say, decompress, like speak to your friends, game, have a laugh, a joke, you know, whatever it is, and it's brilliant. But then that wouldn't have happened, and I have been on the other side of that where I've all of a sudden every single night I'm on the computer,
yeah,
and then she's like, "Well, what are you doing?" And it's like, oh, I'm just doing this or I'm just doing that. And then all of a sudden I'm neglecting her, but then that's why you have to sit down and have this conversation. And I'm the same. I could easily, if I was probably on my own, I would probably be in a very bad place because I could just game and game and game and game and game and, stream and stream and stream. And I would probably be in a very bad place. But, I have got, responsibilities, my little and stay at home dad, work, the missus, family, whatever. And it's a schedule and it keeps me in the right place.
yeah. I think working out that kind of that schedule with my wife, still allowing me to do the things that I really enjoy, my hobbies, and streaming as well is was really important because the same way, even without that communication, if without that schedule of Saturday nights are my night to sit and play video games, and I still game here and there throughout the week, a couple of rounds of Call of Duty if my kids are in school or whatever, but
Yeah.
without it, I could find myself again, neglecting my responsibilities and just hiding out here.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Um, the office that I'm sitting in now, it was a couple of years ago, and it was again just being able to talk to her. She's at that point, we had our schedule. Everything was moving right, and I was like, hey, I'd really like to build my own place out in the garage. That way, the kids aren't messing with my
Yeah.
stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
and whatnot, and
Yeah. Definitely.
it, without that communication, without that the talks that we had prior, if I had just sat out and that's all I did and neglected my other responsibilities, she'd be like, "No, there's absolutely no way you're building
Yeah.
an office for to sit in and video game out in the garage and play video games out in the garage." But
Exactly.
yeah, having the communications with your families is important to be able to balance out. Uh, that way, I can maintain my relationship with my friends too.
Yeah. Exactly that. Exactly. Um, this has been awesome, dude. Like,
Yeah,
I massively appreciate you doing this.
yeah,
Um,
anytime.
coming on, the good thing about things like this is that I want to kind of have people on from a season. So when we go into season 3, I'd obviously love to have you back. We could kind of talk about it. That'd be, there'd be new things to talk about. And but yeah, it would be yeah, this has been awesome. I always try and keep things under an hour for the podcast. And but honestly, I say this to everyone, to have the guts and the want to kind of, the same mindset as myself, to really try and help other people by talking about it, um is amazing. Like, it really is, especially everything you've been through, obviously, with deployment out to Iraq, and obviously all the other stuff you've gone through. Yeah, this isn't easy, and I massively appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me on. It's been a good time, and it's nice to have a platform and somebody else, like you said, with a like mind that
Yeah.
that wants to get the message out there for gamers, for uh, the community of men,
Yeah.
and what I'm here, for the veteran community. And I guess my closing would just be say is if you're a veteran anywhere in the world right now, when you're done listening to this, just text one of your friends, just say hi and check in on them. It
Yeah.
does takes 30 seconds or less to just text hi to a buddy that you haven't talked to in 6 months, and that could be the difference for them. It might be the difference for you.
Exactly. 100%. Awesome. I'm gonna literally sign off. I will be back and chat to you in a minute. But thank you so much, dude. I massively appreciate it. And yeah, I will speak to you soon.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Cheers, dude. Guys, amazing. Like seriously, and I know I say this a lot, but I love talking to people and especially about mental health and new stories for me. And this is a new point of view. So military veterans, all over the world. We're not just talking about kind of America and the UK. We're talking about all over the world. There are places to talk, and there are places to kind of help each other out. And it's a big one today. I think is communication. Um, as always, guys, this is going to be going out on YouTube and Spotify, so you can obviously watch it and just listen to it as well, whichever way you want to do it. But yeah, I appreciate you. I hope everyone has a great week or has had a great week. And as always, look after your mental health, and we'll speak to you soon.